All right. That spinning thing done stop spinning. Let's get down. Okay, y'all. This is installment 3 of the signal response. And these are commentaries that I do following, it's my way of engaging the audience who are nice enough to stop in and watch the show that I do with Bill Whittle as we address these issues of virtue and morality. Things that people, one of the reasons why we we don't get along as far as these things goes, because people have different ideas of virtue and morality and stuff like that, and these are things that we should be able to work out on our own. It's not necessarily a thing that needs to be made a law. Laws are basically to stop people from being immoral, but even the laws themselves, like, well, if I feel like it's moral, why should you stop me from doing it if I think that it's moral? Who says that you should make a law that governs that? So that's where we have these impasses with each other and stuff like that. So we're just trying to get down to the nitty gritty of, like, what's the practical approach to this, and what is the practical view of what is good law and what's bad. So we do these we're trying to take this all the way back to not just a cultural level, or a social level or anything like that, but you got to get down to the spiritual implications of it. So I hope that you guys will check out the show, and I hope I didn't butcher the pitch too bad. But as it is, and another thing I want to address, and this is a show that's offered on billwhittle.com, and it's also offered on his YouTube channel. That being said, I want to address a concern, if you will, or a question that people have about the subscription. um I personally, I don't do subscriptions. I prefer to try to make my content as open and available as possible. Because it's just the principle of, rather than hiding this stuff under a basket or behind a subscription wall, I try to put this stuff up in the window. And if the culture is going nuts, y'all, and we need to try to make sanity as available as possible, rather than just trying to keep it to ourselves. Kind of, we want to infect the culture with sanity as much as people are infecting the culture with insanity. So, and not trying to speak for Bill here in terms of what he's doing with the support. I think people may be under the impression that they're paying for exclusive content, and I don't want to get how he's modeling this incorrectly. But the thing is, y'all, I think the end goal here isn't about so much paying for exclusive content. What you're, stuff that you would see first before anybody else, or stuff that's a bonus for you. It's not so much about the exclusive content. What you're paying for is to help keep the operation going. And that being said, y'all, um, the content, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to promote sanity. We don't want to just keep it to ourselves. We want to be able to make those productions, y'all, and grow with them, not just be talking heads, but put them in creative vehicles, so we're able to relate to more people. Right? That's what we're trying to do, folks. It's not about just we want it like for us, by us, yes, but we also want to radiate this in the culture, gravitate them to us, give them messages, and not only just give them messages, but give it to them in ways that resonate with them. So when you support or you become a subscriber, that's what you're helping with. Freedom isn't free, right? We have to remember that freedom isn't free. So when you help with these subscriptions, y'all, I hope that nobody feels shortchanged because other people are seeing first what you're paying for. That's your free will choice to help get this content created and get it out there, so we can have a chance to maybe get to the cast some seed and get to the minds of some other people, to basically rescue them from the mind rot that they're constantly inundated with. Right? I see somebody digs my shirt. Hey, these are available at my website. I hope you pick you up one. Right? Thank you, though. I'm glad that you dig the shirt. So at any rate, and thank you guys for coming in. I don't want to lose my train of thought here, so please don't forgive me. Please forgive me if it seems like I'm being inconsiderate and not recognizing names and stuff like that. I'm trying to keep this thing rolling, and I got to keep it going before I start having glitch issues, man. Them gremlins love to come after me, when they know I'm online. So at any rate, y'all, um, you know, I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you so much for people who do subscribe. Like I said, my content is free. I don't put my stuff behind a subscription wall or anything like that. I try to make it available and open as possible because, yo, man, we're trying to put our message out there. We want to make it available as possible because there's a lot of garbage messaging out there that people have so much access to. We need to be out there getting in the way of it, right? So please don't see it as you being shortchanged. That's us really trying to take what you're supporting and get it out there because that's what you want, right? You want some sanity promoted in the culture. So when you subscribe, that's what you're doing. So at any rate, y'all, I want to go ahead and get down to the signal response itself. Let's take a look at the first input from this video is concerning the video that Bill and I did in the virtual signal addressing lust, right? Lust and chastity, but kind of breaking down like what is lust. And I hope that you guys will go check out the video in the series, in the virtue signal series. But this is my follow-up, y'all, because hey, like I said, these videos, they're only so long. We're addressing issues that have been around for a long time, and and the discussions on these can go and go and go. And but if we're going to have the discussions, I hope that because a lot of times people just want to talk and they just want to talk and they just want to talk. We need to have the conversation. We need to have the discussion. It's like, and a lot of times they don't even want to have the discussion. What they want to do is just vent. They don't really want to care what you have to say. They just want to vent. They got other issues that they want to get off their chest concerning this and that, whichever. And a lot of time, and because we're always saying we need to have discussion, well, we're always having the discussion. For goodness sake, we're always having a discussion, and things don't seem to be getting better. But I hope that this follow-up to discussion, the reason why I'm having a discussion rather than doing it is because this is the resource I have available to me to at least try to bring some sort of perspective to the table. But I hope that it does more raising light than it does raising heat. I hope these are practical perspectives that I offer. And that's what we want to do. We want to be constructive about these things, not just frivolously talk, because that doesn't really do any good. So let's be constructive about it. So we have this audience member. His contribution was, let's see, his name is Jeffrey Riley. That's his YouTube name, Jeffrey Riley. And he says, we can't control our lust. Remember, the topic we were discussing was lust as, one of the cardinal sins and stuff like that. He says, we can't control our lust, but we can control our behavior concerning lust. Okay. Now, I would say we can't control the fact that we have lust. To say that we can't control lust, no, but we can't control the fact that we do have lust. Just like you can't control whether you have hair or not, right? Ooh, if only we did have some control over that, aside from, unnatural means or shaving it or whichever, or taking some pill or anything. But whether, actually, let me rephrase that. We can't control whether you can grow it or not, right? You have the hair to grow or not, right? But you can control how this hair that you have is presented, right? You can control that. You can keep it healthy and clean, or you cannot control it, right? And just let it get nappy and nasty. Right. So if lust is something that we couldn't control, y'all, please bear in, and because that's where he's coming from. He's saying that lust is something that we don't have control over. But y'all, if lust was something that we couldn't control, God couldn't justly judge us concerning it. Right. That's the thing about it. He expects us to master it, right? By making him master over us. That's how that works, right? So it can be mastered, not necessarily by our power. Our power is the ability to be able to humble ourselves and go to him and say, Lord, I make you master over my life. Help me with lust, so I don't betray you, so I don't betray anybody else, right? I don't want to sin against anybody else. All right. So now some would say, but why should I let God be my master? I'm my own master. Right? I don't need God to be my master. Well, okay, fine. But here's the thing. We make mistakes. And how are you worthy to be your own master if you make mistakes, y'all? right? I mean, we all know that nobody's perfect, but I'm just saying, if you're going to be your own master, wouldn't you want, wouldn't you have a higher standard for who's going to be master over you? I wouldn't want myself to be I'm a knucklehead. I'm a screw up, right? I don't want to be my own master. I'm gonna let me down, right? So I would prefer to hand that over to God, right? And have him be master of my life. Now one would say, like, well, what like God doesn't make mistakes? Um well, if God making a mistake, though, because people, they think stuff like this, right? But if God making mistakes makes him unworthy to be master, well, then that makes you unworthy to be master of your own life, because you make mistakes too, right? And y'all, there's no evidence of God's so-called mistakes, right? There's no evidence that. But however, uh there's plenty of evidence of our mistakes, though. Right? Plenty evidence of that. And a lot of that is because of so many people being mistaken about thinking that God is mistaken or a myth, right? And that's pretty much a driving factor in why we're so imperfect, if you will. All right. So anyway, moving on. Let's take YouTube name Longcaster. And Longcaster says, I am glad that when it comes to humans, God did not give us the reproductive tract of chickens and the mammary glands of cows. Yeah, all right. I agree, man. That would utterly suck. All right. See what I did there? No. Okay, anyway. I remember, man, a long time ago, I was told that if God is perfect, why did he make birds with backward knees? Okay. Right. Now, I mean, if we're talking about God being mistaken, right? But here's the thing. Okay, so let's go down that road. Let's go down it. If God is mistaken by giving birds backwards knees, then that would mean that even God's mistakes are practical, right? If God makes mistakes, he makes mistakes that are very useful, right? Like, say, for instance, those backwards knees that birds have, they come in really handy. They come in very handy for their takeoff, for their landing, for them to be able to snatch up prey. I mean, them backwards knees come in pretty handy. So if God is mistaken, then all right. Okay, so let's go to Jesse Brown, YouTube user Jesse Brown says, how can lust be a vice when it's directly related to the act of procreation? All right. Okay, so it's a vice, y'all, if it has a grip on you, right? So we call it a vice, right? Because it's gripped on you, right? It has control over you rather than you having control over it. We know how that goes. Okay, which means that this is you being oppressed, right? And God hates oppression. He hates it, right? Lust is generated from our natural instinct to mate. Okay, so it is a natural process. Yes. Laughter is a natural thing too, and tends to be very enjoyable. However, there's a right way to enjoy your laughter and a wrong way, right? Like, say, for instance, if you want to roll up on people, at a funeral, right? And just start laughing at this funeral, that would be a wrong way to enjoy your laughter, right? Generally. Okay. So as you can see, there's sexual attraction, and sexual attraction can be, it's a normal thing, but it can be abused. It's a natural, normal thing. And when you get carried away with it, that's where lust comes in. And that's when it starts to govern your life. It occupies your mind. It leads to doing wrongful things. So that's where it's the problem. Okay, so y'all, out of our instinct to mate, right? This mating instinct that we have, we get ideas concerning a person who's caught our view, right? But when your eyeballs just start rolling around that person's drawers, okay, and you're just occupied with that stuff, and you start entertaining this stuff, if that stuff starts to get unhealthy, right? Now you're just seeing this person as a source of release, right? Before seeing them as a companion. And thus lust gets in the way of respect in that sense. You see what I'm saying? That's why so many couples don't get along. right? Or don't last long because either one or both parties just wanted to satisfy their lust before the value of companionship. Thus, the respect wasn't there. And this contributes to people having a lot of emotional baggage, y'all. And we see a lot of that, don't we? Yeah. All right. So, but people, they're just under the impression that, hey, I don't see no harm in it. If it feels good, do it. And that takes precedence over their apprehensions or aversions to the consequences of it. Y'all, this goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden, y'all. I don't see no harm in it. It looks pleasing. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. And they didn't think that the consequences, would follow them or would be as drastic. They were suckered into thinking that the consequences wouldn't be what they would be. So we see that same dynamic today. All right, same stuff. Okay, let's take a look at what Mary Bourne has to say. And she says that drug addiction can be considered a lust of sorts. It is basically making a conscious decision that is unhealthy. Could even be food addiction. All right, indeed. Lust would be this craving, right? This craving, this fiending for something. And one can indeed lust after this thing. For a false sense of relief, or fulfillment, or satisfaction. Yeah. So I totally agree. Lust, isn't just in the terms of sexuality. When you're fiending for something, right? And it occupies your mind. It's something that your body just feels like it has to have, or you'll be uncomfortable. And you seek this thing for pleasure. You have to have it to satisfy you somehow. That in itself is a form of lust. So yeah, I thank you, Mary. I agree. Let's see. Motor E. That's how they spell it. Motor E. Motor E says that coveting is the foundation of all sin. That's close. It's close. Mr. E, I'm gonna say it's close. But the covetousness, though, all right. Remember, he's saying that coveting is the foundation of all sin. Here's the thing, though: coveting had to be preceded by a motivator, though, right? So we can't say that covetous is the root of all sin. There had to be something that a motivating factor to it, right? Satan was motivated to covet by pride. Right? His pride motivated him to covet, right? That's what his pride made him covet God's status and beyond. So I would disagree that coveting is the foundation of all sin. It's actually pride. Now, covetousness is arguably the first sin demonstrated, right, in humans. Hey, usually the first words that come out of a kid's mouth, y'all, is mine. It's like the first thing that they want to say, right? Is mine. Kids are covetous, right? And when they put their covetous into action, it turns into stealing, right? Or just I'm gonna take that, right? I'm gonna rob you of it. Right now, that's not what they're thinking, right? Because a toddler isn't pridefully reasoning to itself why what you have is better suited in their hands, right? The kid just sees something that it wants and doesn't consider that it belongs to another and takes it. Okay. The kid, of course, doesn't want you taking their stuff, right? And subsequently, that's when that empathy thing kicks in, along with telling the kid, no, naughty, right? So they learn this, right? People always talk about kids are so innocent and kids are so good. If that's the case, why do you have to teach them to be good, right? It's like we already born to be rotten, covetous, bad kids, right? We born that way, right? God originally made us good, but we inherited a sin nature, so now we're just wicked, right? We born that way. You got to teach us to be good now, right? So, okay, now that being said, y'all, so it's kind of giving our YouTube friend some leeway here when he says that covetous is the foundation of all sin. Okay, so we just examined that, babies, they covet, right? Pride doesn't have anything to do with what they're doing. They just covet, right? But here's the thing. This is how pride is foundational, because Satan, Lucifer, before the fall, before his fall, he wasn't created as a baby. Satan was full grown. He was created in maturity, right? With ample capacity to reason, all right? And he felt justified in his pride. He calculated why he should be above God. And then from there he coveted, right? He wasn't some baby who didn't know what, pride and covetousness was and just, felt something that was, should belong to him. No, he was created mature, right? He could reason. So he knew what he was doing, right? So which means, y'all, he had no excuse. And so if pride is the first foundational sin, which it is, this caused him to lie to himself, right? He ain't all that like he thinks he is, right? And he doesn't deserve what he pridefully thinks he's entitled to, right? So pride is foundational as a sin. It is a foundational sin, right? Let's see. Let's take a look at Christo Saves, all right? And he says, actually, before Eve ate the apple, and once again, thank you guys for coming in. I see folks coming in. Thank you so much. I'm trying to stay on track, y'all. So, if I start being all polite and engaging with y'all and stuff like that, I'm gonna lose my track, and then and I'm gonna look dumber than I already do. Okay. He says, Christo Saves says, actually, before Eve ate the apple, both Eve and Adam didn't know they was naked, right? After sin, and then he puts in parentheses, knowledge entered. That's why they both hid from God, because they both knew they was naked. Okay, I'm kind of concerned that he associates sin with knowledge. Because he says after it's sin, and then he puts in parentheses knowledge. So I guess he's associating sin with knowledge. I have a concern about that, because the thing is, y'all, if knowledge isn't sin, guys. This was a specific kind of knowledge, but knowledge itself isn't sin. If knowledge was sin, then God would be sin, because he's all knowing. God would just be all sin, but he's all knowing, right? So we can't say that knowledge itself is sin. Now also, the word doesn't say that this fruit that they got from the tree was an apple. All right, it's fruit. It doesn't specifically say what kind of. And the thing is, y'all, there's words that refer to apples, in the Hebrew, right? So when you go through the Bible, you'll see words for apple in there. You'll find them. But concerning the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the word for apple isn't employed. So here's the thing, y'all. That's not an invitation to fill the blank with what you think it was, right? That's one of our big problems, y'all. We look in the Bible and we assume to fill in the blanks where we think that there's like some mystery or something like that, and we try to fill it in with our own understanding. God says, don't do that, right? God will take care of it. God doesn't leave these. Are there mysteries to these things? Yes, but the Lord does tell us to add it up. Right? We're supposed to add it up. With his help, the mysteries are revealed to us, right? You don't have to go to dubious writings or anything like that, or rely on your own understanding. You rely on the Holy Spirit, right? He counsels us for these things. So like I said, y'all, it's an invitation from God to investigate, right? It's not an invitation to fill in the blank. It is an invitation to investigate with his guidance, right? And it shows you something much more important than what kind of tree it was. Right? People trying to figure out, they're trying to find some significance in what kind of fruit this tree bore, right? Bore, right? I don't be like bragging on my grammar skills. Okay, but here's the thing, y'all. It isn't about trying to find out what kind of tree it was. Here's the thing. When you look up the word tree in the language that God had, that he had given this account through Moses, right? You look up the word, included in its meaning for this word tree is carpenter, right? And gallows. And Jesus was a carpenter who was indeed hung, wasn't he? Right? God was prophesying to us way back there. That's what you're supposed to be looking for. right? Notice I didn't try to fill in a blank with my own understanding. I relied on the word of God according to the language that he spoke to Moses in, right? Who is called to make an account of these things. That's what you go to. You see what I'm saying? That's how you read the word of God with the counsel of the Holy Spirit. And you go there and you look at his word and trust that he will reveal his word to you. You don't have to try to fill in the blanks by your own understanding or go to dubious writings. Okay? So trust in God. Now, here's the thing. As far as them not knowing they was naked, y'all, they knew they were naked because they were ashamed. They weren't ashamed of it, right? They knew they were naked because they weren't ashamed. They weren't ashamed of it, y'all, not out of ignorance. Man, how we talked about that before, like even with the devil, not being ignorant to his stuff like that, being a baby and whatnot. Remember, Adam and Eve, they was grown, right? They were created grown with a capacity to reason. That's why there was no excuse for what they did, right? They should have known better. It wasn't like they were babies who grew and they had to be taught this stuff. They were created in the image of God. They were created with powerful smarts. They weren't stupid. All right. They were very, very smart. Let me repeat that. They were very, very smart, which means there was no excuse for them to do what they did. They should have been able to make a better judgment call on what they did. If they were naive and dumb, God would have been like, it's okay. Take a mulligan on this one. You guys are just being not naive and dumb, right? Let me go ahead and give you another shot. No, they had no excuse because they were smart, right? Okay, so but y'all, so in them being naked, y'all, it wasn't about them not knowing or them being ignorant. They didn't feel the need to be ashamed because there wasn't anything to be ashamed of. So not out of ignorance, y'all, but that they did not know that they were naked, but there was no need. There was no need for them to be ashamed. So in full context, y'all, when God asked, who told you you were naked? Meaning, who told you there was something wrong with it? All right. Now, just like God didn't need to ask where they were, God don't need to ask where they were, right? And he didn't need to ask who deceived them and who told them they were naked. God already knows. He's not ignorant. He knows already, but he still asks. So you see what I'm saying, y'all? You got to put these things in full context, and examine the character of God and examine the character of the situation, right? The word means what it says and it says what it means. Don't get me wrong. But the whole word means what it says. It says you can't just like look at a verse and you got to square that by the whole thing, right? And square that by the nature of what God is revealing to us. Okay, so that's when you do that. That's when you have the safeguard against twisting the word to try to make it fit to what you think is, and trying to twist these little verses and stuff like that. No, you got to square the whole word square that verse by the whole word to keep it in shape. All right. Okay, so now the thing is, y'all, Adam and Eve, they knew they were naked, and when they sinned, they knew enough. They knew enough to use their nakedness as an excuse to hide from God. They just, oh snap, we messed up, man. Let's create an excuse to hide from God. What, man? Just check this out, man. When somebody, let's say the popo come knock on your door, cuckoo, let us in the police. What you? Hold on for a second, I'm not dressed. You'll go to the naked excuse to not answer the door, right? Well, that's what Adam and Eve did. They went right to the naked excuse to not answer God and went and hid behind some bushes or whichever, right? So y'all, they knew they were naked and they knew enough to use their nakedness as an excuse, right? To hide from God. Okay, so now it also says, y'all, that their eyes were opened, right? Now, does that mean that they were walking around in the garden all the time with their eyes closed? No, they could see. They just saw things differently, right? Things like their nakedness. All right. So I hope it wasn't like I said, it's not like they didn't know that they were naked. It's just like, what was the point of seeing anything wrong with it? There was no point of seeing anything wrong with it. Then something happened, right? Now, to get into the nitty-gritty of that, because I don't want to go too far off into the weeds with that, but I hope that you guys will check out my study on 1 Corinthians 2. After I'm done with this, I'll leave a link for it. And I hope you guys check that out concerning the tree of knowledge of good and evil and some things that happen in there. I think I'm hoping that you guys will really appreciate the study on that. Let's go to Mike Churchill. Mike Churchill says, the tree of knowledge of the tree of knowledge. And once again, y'all, we're talking about this is coming out of us talking about lust. So I gather that, you know, this is coming from out of people saying that, you know, just like Adam and Eve lusted after this tree, right? And why? And basically, which means that they coveted what was on this tree. Why? Because they coveted God's power, right? His power of knowledge. They were suckered into think that you know, they could be like God. So and that came out of their pride still, right? Their covetousness was stoked by agency of their pride, right? So at any rate, that's why just in case anybody's coming in now on a discussion wonder what we're talking about, right? This is why we're getting I'm responding to these inputs that folks have. So Mike Churchill says the tree of knowledge was placed to give Adam and Eve agency or choice. They needed both trees. Okay. It was not a sign to eat of it. Rather, it was a transgression or an act that had a negative result. He goes on to say that Adam and Eve were not capable were not capable of reproducing or dying. They had very limited knowledge. What we talked about that, y'all. No, they had no excuse. They were smart. That's why they had no excuse, and their punishment was the way that it was. Let's see. Once they lost their innocence, they became mortal and carnal. The leaving of the Garden of Eden represents the distance that sin and mortality places between us and God. Eve was not duped and was not a fool for making the choice. Adam was not duped or fooled by Eve. They both came to the realization that they could not keep the one commandment to multiply and replenish the earth unless they had knowledge or mortality to do so. Okay, oh man, I gotta deeply disagree with this, man. Look, okay, give me a sip of my coffee. Okay, let's go in. Now, y'all, to say that Adam and Eve couldn't reproduce before the transgression is that's absolutely false and a deliberate omission of scripture, or I don't know, maybe he just hadn't read it. Okay, let's read. It says, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground. Genesis 1:28, meaning they were supposed to reproduce sexually, right? Even before the transgression, right? Now, and it seems that he knows that. He says that he called that their commandment, right? Well, the commandment was not to eat from the tree, but that's you know, but but was also right. So this wasn't like, you know, just the only commandment that was in there. But at any rate, y'all, so we have, let me get back to what the scripture says here. So that was Genesis 1:28. And then it says, going on from there, it says, to the woman, he said, I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain, you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be contrary to your husband. I like that translation is a good translation, right? Not saying that the other translations are bad, but I think it is and untrue. Just I think this one kind of gets more to the core of it, because when you break these words open in the Hebrew, it's like, you know, there's gonna be, it's gonna give you so much leverage in how you can examine the word. Remember, y'all, all these translations and stuff like that, it's not to confuse you, right? It's not to take it as a license to say that the Bible's not credible because there's all these translations. That's not true. What it does is that it gives you leverage on how you see what God is telling you. You're able to look at it from, you know, three-dimensional angles, right? So anyway, y'all, when it says that your desire shall be contrary to your husband and he shall rule over you. So that's Genesis 3:16. And y'all, what that means is that before the transgression, Eve could have given birth, right? And not only that, not only was she meant to give birth before the transgression, she was able to do it with a lot less discomfort, right? Virtually painless. So the bottom line is, y'all, she was still meant to give birth, which of course meant she could get pregnant by Adam sexually. Right? And y'all, to also say to say that Eve was not deceived or not duped is totally false, right? That's not me, making some fanciful argument for it or anything like that, right? As I did just a moment ago. It's as the word says, but I am afraid that just as Eve was deceived by the serpent's cunning, your mind, let me say that again, I'm afraid just as Eve was deceived. The person said that Eve wasn't duped. The word says that she was deceived, right? Your minds may somehow be led astray from your sincere and pure devotion to Christ. 2 Corinthians 11:13. Okay, y'all. So part of the transgression was that they listened to a liar and should have known better, right? And listened to him rather than God. They didn't even double check with God. They didn't bring him and his counsel in at all, right? They just trusted somebody else. So yes, they allowed themselves to be duped, right? Y'all, people allow themselves to be duped all the time. Fake news. Hello. Okay. So now we got moving on. Leon D says that you are both close. Thank you, Leon, but still don't see the universal truth. I'll give you a hint. He says it all has to do with woman. They are the key to everything. All right. It sounds like Leon has been reading a little too much of the book of Enoch instead of the Bible. Okay. Let's see. And here's the thing. Leon. Human women, they weren't even created when Lucifer's pride was found in him. All right. Since Adam wasn't even created yet. All right. Lucifer had already betrayed God in betraying his position and was cast out. Then he went after Adam through Eve. All right. Now, did Eve mess up? Yes. Yes, she did. But it was under the influence of a male. Right. And her own man, Adam, sat there or stood there and watched her do it. Right. And then followed. Right. So there's plenty enough blame to go around. Right. And God's like, hey, Adam, tag me in, bro. I know you got a free hand to go along with that free will. I suggest you tag me in, right? But it's your choice. It's your choice. We can put an end to this right now. Right now, man. God's just like, hey, God, God didn't have to say anything. He shouldn't have had to say anything. Yo, Adam, I've given you the proof of my grace. This is what you got, man. This is the proof, right? I have given you the proof that I'm the truth. I'm the truth proof. Right? Or I'm the proof of truth, right? You have no reason to not believe whatever I've told you. No reason whatsoever, man. None. Why you would listen to somebody else despite what I have proven to you? There's no excuse for it, man. None. So I ain't gonna say nothing. I told you. You can lose all this, man. You'll die. If you eat from that tree, you have no reason to believe me. None. Right? Just holler at me, bro. I ain't gonna say nothing. Okay, that's how that went down. Because God wasn't gonna step on the free will of Adam. Adam had to make the choice, and was smart enough to make the choice. That's why they had no excuse. Okay, I know people I talk about this limited knowledge that they had. No, God didn't. God doesn't play that, right? Be like, oh, like I said earlier, it's like, oh, you were just naive and you were just dumb, and let me give you another. No, you were smart enough to understand what I was telling you. You were smart enough to understand my policy on this. It should have been smart enough. You were smart enough to know that I wasn't lying to you. By doing this, basically, you accused me of being a liar, right? You followed the accuser who accused me of lying and believed him. Oh, man. Heck no, man. God was lit. All right. Okay, so Baker Harris says, hey, Bill, if you want people to get interested in conservative ideas, think about rebranding. Ergo, same ideas and beliefs with a different, better, updated look. All right. Start with the Republican mascot. The elephant is not working. The wolf, woof, right? However, would work perfectly. Hey, that's what Baker Harris says. Okay. Um, the Bible, because that's my foundation to operate from, y'all. So I'm gonna go to the Bible. And the Bible does not directly speak of elephants. All right. But but here's the thing. It does speak of wolves, which is cool, right? But wolves aren't given a favorable characteristic and are implicated as enemies of the Lord's flock. All right. So it's not a good idea, man. It's not a good idea to brand the Republican Party as a pack of wolves. All right. So now, I understand there's some Republicans out there who think they're too good to be Christians and stuff like that. Um, or just they don't even consider. Some people, at least some people are struggling with. They say, man, um, let me think about this. That I can dig, right? But some are just like, we don't need Jesus, and we don't need God. We're masters of our destinies and individuals and all that sort of stuff. You do have Republicans that are like that, and that's caused the party to suffer greatly. Republicanism, conservatism, and stuff like that. What their premier, the premier for them is the Constitution, their national pride, and stuff like that. They have more affection for that than they do actually for God. There's too much of that, right? And yeah, I'm telling y'all, that kind of pride that is going before our fall is being quite evident, as you can see that we're losing our republic. So I know everybody feels justified in their pride, man, but trust me, you're not. On a side note, so anyway, y'all, but and just like with this audience member, he says that out of pride, y'all. Sorry, I just got to call it like it is. He says it out of pride. Baker he wants to be represented by an animal that is strong and fierce and fast and agile. It's like he's got the Lycan thing going on, right? So I get it, man, but just prayerfully rethink that. And on a side note, y'all, the elephant is a symbol usually modeled after the African elephant. When we see the Republican Party symbol, it's usually modeled after the African elephant, which is kind of ironic, being that Republicans are seen as the people who hate black people, right? But their party symbol is a symbol that is associated with the strength of Africa. Interesting. All right, but unlike the elephant, too many Republicans have forgotten their roots. And what do you expect, man? It's like for generations, people have been educated by the Democrat Party. Republicans, it's kind of inevitable that a lot of Republicans really don't know their history. They don't know their roots. They don't really know what the foundation of being a Republican is. They really don't know, because for the most part, Republicans, at this point in time, there's been years of being educated by Democrats. So and here you got Republicans out there talking. They know that the school system is indoctrination camps, right? We know that. At the same time, they're saying we need to get our kids back in school. What? That doesn't make sense. Hey, but that's what our Republican Party is now. I don't think that the parties have switched sides. I just think the Republicans are switched off. Right? They really don't. Too many of them don't know who they are. Right? Okay, so now, so that being said, y'all, the problem with Republicans is being diseased with pride. They're too. It's like this person right here. He wants to be seen as a wolf, right? The problem with the Republican Party is this pride issue, and they're too proud to be sheep, right? Too proud of it, right? And as they love sayings like a nation of sheep will be governed by wolves, right? But the reason why wolves are governing us, y'all, is because people are too proud to be the Lord's sheep, right? If you want to handle being a lion, you got to be able to have the humility to be a sheep first, right? But we don't do that, and that's why wolves are governing us. But I agree that Republicans and conservatives have long had a messaging and branding problem. I've been saying that for years, right? So he's right. Conservatives and Republicans, they have a messaging and a branding problem. Right. The other problem, though, is that conservatives, for the most part, don't really support the effort to effectively rectify that. All their money goes to either candidates or something political, right? but they don't want, they got the money and they got the energy for that. But when it comes to the cultural work to be able to stabilize that, to make it stable, it goes over their head. Too many of them, right? There's only a blessed few who get that and try to support the creative means, the creative vehicle to be able to deliver these messages. That's how the liberals are doing it. That's how they do it. They use creative means to promote their message, right? Conservatives, they don't really support that. It's funny, and even lots of conservatives, don't get me started, man. You guys get my point. You've heard me talk about this stuff before, right? And notice, y'all, I said effectively rectify, right? Effectively rectify this. Associating with Republicans and conservatives with a pack of wolves is not good, effective branding, y'all. Matter of fact, that's a cultural stigma that's already attached to conservatives as it is. So you don't want to go down that road, please. Okay, so let's look at what Jeremy Brooks, and thank you guys so much once again, those who are still hanging in there with me as I share these discussions with you, or this input with you, and respond to them. I hope it gives like some more in-depth perspective in what it was we were talking about in the first place. So I hope these are not boring the snot out of you. All right. So Jeremy Brooks says, I forget which book it is in the Old Testament, which book it is in the Old Testament. But the quote is, ye are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. We have to be better than our basest desires. I remember the first time I heard that verse, man. I think it was Danzig. I don't remember. Was it when it was Glenn Danzig? I don't remember if it was like in the cover of one of his albums. I don't remember if it was Samain or if it was Danzig or whichever. But anyway, Glenn Danzig is the first time I had seen that. And I had, of course, I wanted to go look it up for myself. Right, long, man. That's way back, y'all. That's way back. Okay, so okay, let's open that account up a little bit, and Yeshua in that is speaking to the Jews, and take it from, if we start from verse 39, it's going to say, Abraham is our father, replied the Jews. Right now, Jesus says, if you were children of Abraham, said Jesus, you would do the works of Abraham, but now you are trying to kill me, a man who has told you the truth that I heard from God. Abraham never did such a thing. You are doing the works of your father, right? We are legitimate children, they declared. Our only father is God himself. Wait a minute. What happened to Abraham? Right, but anyway, all right. Jesus said to them, if God were your father, you would love me, for I have come here from God. I have not come on my own, but he sent me. Why do you not understand what I am saying? It is because you are unable to accept my message. Notice right there, Jesus declared his oneness with God. He said, my message is God's message. It can only be Yeshua's message, if he's God. Anyway, you belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out his desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, refusing to uphold the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language. I speak the truth, but you don't believe me, right? Basically, what Jesus is saying is this: we are all God's children until we decide not to be, right? God basically says, I am the truth, and my children reflect the truth. If you choose to reflect a lie, like saying I'm not who I say I am, right? Then you are children of the father of lies. Even if you don't want him to be your daddy, you're in his likeness. Now, it says also, y'all, it says that Satan is just speaking his native language when he lies, right? Okay, check this out. So does that mean that God created Lucifer to lie? Okay, because here's the thing, y'all. Then that would mean that God punishes him unjustly because Satan is just being obedient to what he was created to do. Therefore, he couldn't really be a rebellious angel, right? Here's the thing, y'all. Angels and humans were made good with the ability to discern what's evil, right? That is foundational in our makings, right? Meaning it's a native aspect for us, this capacity, right? The dynamic is there, right? Good or evil. That's native to us to be able to have the discernment to know to distinguish between the two. All right. So here's the thing. So rather than choosing to stand on the foundation to do good, Satan decided to stand on the capacity to do what he thinks is right, his own truth, so-called truth, but it's a lie. That became solely his native position. All right. So no, y'all, God didn't create Satan to be inherently evil, to go and do evil things. We're all made good, right? But in that foundation of our makeup, there's that capacity. Which one are you going to be? Right? Which foundation are you going to stand on? Which is going to be what your native point to come from? Right? Satan made lies, right? Pride, these untruths. He made that his native position. Okay. Now let's take a look at Kari de la Cruz, who says, "I believe that virtue." And we've got just a couple more of these left, y'all. I'll try not to keep you here all night. I only got, I think, a couple more. I believe that virtue is the difference between a life of imprisonment and a life of freedom. For example, if I am obese, then I am living under the tyranny of gluttony. I am choosing to be imprisoned emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically by food. When I am eating healthy food in healthy quantities, then I am living in freedom. Not sure if that makes sense, but as someone who chooses to live in recovery from food obsession, I find that if I indulge my addiction, I am choosing to be ruled by that food. Recovery equals freedom. Recovery is a virtue for me. Just thinking out loud a little. I like it, right? I wanted to share that with you because I like where this person is coming from with that, and it does make sense. So thank you for that input, Kari. Let's see. Monsi Mahan Martinez, all right, says that two crucial distinctions are absent in this discussion. One, libido and lust. Two, love, romance. Just as lust distorts libido, he's going on to say, into something that is not, and was never meant to be, so romance distorts love into something it is not and was never meant to be. Okay. I think I'm tracking with you. I think Martinez, I think I'm tracking with you. The cause of the two distortions is the same. And he goes on to say, love is a creature of the home, domesticity. Lust is a creature of the wild. Romance is the behavior proper to the hunt. Love is the behavior of the capture. I think he's quoting Chad Ripperger is a fine source for clear explanation of these topics from a magisterial view. And for the more ambitious, see John Hardson, SJ. Okay. Okay, appreciate the suggestions, but I got an even better book for y'all to read. The Bible. that's the best book you're gonna get on the subject. Why not explore the writings of the author of Love and Marriage? I mean, just saying. Okay, so now while Monsi charges us for having things absent from the discussion, which I don't really think we did, but what he brought to the table are things that we touched on. I understand that maybe he wants us to say it a certain way. I think he's kind of demonstrated the way he likes things worded. But just because we didn't word it the way that he would like them structured doesn't mean that we didn't touch on it. But y'all, that being said, while he's charging us with having a lot of things absent from the discussion, his comment to us itself was absent of a lot of things, right? Just to be fair, right? Every one of his statements is leaving out a whole bunch of stuff to hold it up. right? But I understand. You can only put so much in a comment, man. You can only put in so much, just like we can only put so much in a video. All right. So, but I totally appreciate you wanting to add some clarifications or some expansions. And like I said, it's not like we didn't touch on these things though, you know, but I appreciate your confidence in having such high expectations for us to be able to clear up some issues spanning thousands of years in a 20-minute video. All right. Okay, let's go on to Carter Heavy Industries. And he says that marriage is unnatural for men at a biological level. You heathen, right? You trying to use some intellectual biological argument, man, to justify acting like an animal. Come on, man. And that's what a lot of stuff is nowadays, man. It's people trying to make, philosophical and intellectual arguments. I mean, that's supposed to be so sophisticated. We're supposed to be civil and stuff like that. Why do we go through all these degrees of posturing ourselves as such intellectuals only to justify behaving like animals, right? I think that's kind of strange. But at any rate, y'all, okay. So again, he says that marriage is unnatural for men at a biological level. For men only, not for women either. Is it? Okay, but all right. Listen, we just gonna pick on guys here. But to which I say no. Because here's the thing, y'all. It's in our nature. It's also in our nature to have a sense of loyalty and betrayal. That's natural to us too. Okay. So in our instinct, excuse me, y'all. In our instinct to mate, we also have the instinct for monogamy, right? Now we can see monogamy, y'all, in certain animals. All right. But the difference between us is that we can reason our instincts, right? Monogamous animals don't know why they're that way, right? They don't really have the free will choice. That's just their programming. They're just acting on their instinct. They're ignorant to the other choice, right? Of respective behaviors concerning that, or what even to call it, right? That's a totally different thing. Whereas we're aware of the choices we can make concerning it, right? So we can apply our instinct to mate monogamously or promiscuously, right? So we can also apply our natural sense to be loyal or ignore it, right? Therefore, engaging a person's natural sense to feel betrayed, right? And so hopefully one would have the natural sense to be like, to have a sense of empathy to say that, wow, I wouldn't want that person to feel betrayed. I wouldn't want to feel betrayed, right? These things are natural to us, right? So marriage, of course, would be a very natural, it is a natural thing to us. It's natural, right? So, and just like I said with the other things, as this person is saying that marriage is unnatural to us biologically, I would have to say different because we have other factors in us. These natural reactions, these sensations that we have, they're natural to us. The sense of loyalty and contrasting that the sense of betrayal, right? So with those things in mind, of course, marriage would be a natural thing to us. Okay. All right, y'all. I thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of the Signal Response. And like I said, these are follow-up videos that I do to the virtue signal that I do with Bill Whittle as we examine these virtues or whether they be virtues or lack thereof, and trying to get some clarity on what actually qualifies as a virtue, because of course people are going to argue about what redeeming virtue is. So that's what we're trying to do. It's our contribution to the culture to try to help promote some sanity and promote some clarity, and of course my effort is to rock the gospel and promote the eternal truth of God himself, right? So thank you guys. I saw some people like the shirt. bronzeserpentmedia.com, y'all. That's where you can get them, mugs, stuff like that. Support. Blessings.